With the release of NBA 2K24, I thought it'd be a fun idea to name the best active NBA player from every 2K rating, all the way from 65 to 98. My only rule is that I'm only using the 2K rating for organizational purposes. How 2K rates the players' specific abilities or badges they give them are irrelevant to my choice on who I think the best player is for each rating. Also, this is an active list, not an all-time list, so I will be factoring in their current talent. Without further ado, let's rebound onto that list. Rated 65 overall is Jordan Hall. Jordan Hall is the lowest rated active 2K player in the game. He has 1 season under his belt, playing 9 games last season for the Spurs. At 66 overall is Tyler Hall, not the Las Vegas Raiders cornerback, but the former New York Knick who is currently a free agent. He is the only active player rated 66 overall. Rated at 67 is Braxton Key. Key is entering his 4th season and is currently on the Nuggets roster. While he doesn't have a lot of games or minutes played on his resume, he's still a great rebounder, averaging nearly 4 rebounds per game with his limited time on the court. That's pretty impressive. At 68 overall is Olivier Sarr. Sarr is really underrated by 2K in my opinion. They only improved his rating by 1 point. The man can average nearly 4 rebounds in just 12 minutes. Plus, he's a 7-footer who can space the floor and hit threes. At 69, nice, is Matthew Dellavedova. I'll admit that Delly isn't the prime Delly we saw locking up Steph Curry in the finals. Well, locking up may be a bit of an exaggeration, but the fact is, he's a great defensive point guard and can hustle and give you 110%. That's not an exaggeration. Some may say that 69 is a nice rating, but it's a bit low for Delly. At 70 is Kevin Knox. As the 9th pick in the 2018 draft to the Knicks, many people had higher hopes for Knox, and while he's not what people expected him to be, I think in a vacuum, he's not a bad player. He's just not what he was projected to be as a top 10 pick. He can still give you close to 9 points per game. For a role player, that's pretty good. At 71 is Caleb Houston. Caleb just completed his rookie season, and I think he has a lot of potential to take the next step and really improve his game. His season flew under the radar by many. Think about this, he only got 18 turnovers last season. That's really good considering he played in 51 games and started in 4 of them. His per 36 stats would have him at 0.8 turnovers per game. That's less than 1 per game. If that's not efficiency, I don't know what is. Plus, he has a really clean jumper. I think his future is bright. At 72 is Nathan Knight. Nathan is entering his 4th NBA season, and this was a really sneaky good pickup by the Knicks. Keep in mind his previous 2 seasons were on a front court heavy Timberwolves team. Even with that logjam at the power forward center positions, he still managed to average close to 4 points per game on just 7.7 minutes per game. Tack on the fact that he's also a good 3-point shooter for his size, hitting them at 36% a clip. He's a very underrated player. My pick for 73 overall is Evan Fournier. Evan did not play a lot last season due to falling out of the rotation and having a bad relationship with Tom Thibodeau. I don't think he magically just stopped being good at basketball. This situation might even be beyond the court. Just look at how well he did during the most recent FIBA World Cup games. Not long ago, Evan's 2K ratings were in the 80s in the older 2K games. Sure, his future in the NBA is questionable, at least with the Knicks, but I don't think it's a question to say that he still has a ton of talent. At 74 overall is Jock Landale. Jock took a sizable jump from his last 2K rating, which was 70 overall, and I think he's ready to take yet another jump. He had a really solid sophomore season, and now he's on a team that's going to actually give him even more minutes and really be a part of a young core. At 75 overall is Malik Beasley. Don't forget that there was a point in Malik's career when he was averaging around 20 points per game, and he just came off an 11 point per game season. The Bucks are in a really pivotal point in their franchise. If they don't make some noise, there will be noise coming from the wrong places. So hopefully Malik's game can bring the Bucks back on top. 76 overall is a close call between Joe Ingles and Cameron Payne. Though Cameron is on the upward trend of his career and Joe is on the downward trend as he is 35, soon to be 36. Cameron Payne was just recently waived by the Spurs like days ago, so he's technically a free agent. Who knows which team will pick him up, but I do think he's a great 3-point shooter who can do well on a team that needs such a talent. At 77 is Kevin Love. Kevin is not the same all-star Kevin Love we once knew, but that doesn't mean he's a bad player, and while he's not the rebounder like he was in his prime, he's still a great 3-point shooter, veteran, and Hail Mary full court passer. He showed up big for the Heat in their finals run, and I think he'll be ready for another great season. At 78 is DeAnthony Melton. I'm not sure why Memphis got rid of this guy just a few seasons ago, but at least the 76ers have something to think about in a positive light given all their current problems with their roster. He's only 25 and really found his footing as a starter, starting in 58 out of the 77 games last season. This upcoming season may be the one that solidifies himself as a great two-way combo guard. Not many players can play both ends of the court at his position or even his size. 79 is a close call between Miles Bridges and Gary Trent Jr. Miles has a lot more questions than answers. It's been over a year since he last played. If he returns right where he left off, then he could be a strong pick for this spot, but I'm going to choose what we do know over what we don't know, and thus Gary Trent gets this pick. Speaking of which, I really don't know what this man needs to do for 2K to rank him higher, at least something in the 80s. He just came off of a 17 point per game season. Speaking of which, a 80 overall has a lot of great options from John Collins to Benedict Mathurin. My pick here though is Buddy Hield. Now, you can argue that Mathurin has a far greater upside and that Buddy is kinda peaked as a player, but until Benedict reaches said peak, I will go with the player currently in his prime, and that is Buddy Hield. At 81 overall, we have the likes of Russell Westbrook, Tobias Harris, and Yusuf Nurkic, just to name a few. My pick here though is Jeremy Grant, who fit quite well with the Blazers. He surprisingly had his best 3-point shooting season, going over 40% from downtown, and he still averaged 20.5 points per game. For 82 overall, it would be a smart choice to choose Smart, Marcus Smart, who is now playing for the Grizzlies. It's not a question that Smart is one of the best defensive point guards in the game today. The only question here is he going to keep his hair Celtics green or dye it Memphis blue? My pick for 83 overall is Jared Allen. Now I totally get that Jaren had a less than stellar postseason in the Cavs' disappointing show up against the Knicks, but I think 2K really hammered him for it. Not that long ago, he was rated 86 overall, and I don't think he got worse as a player. He's still an excellent rebounder and inside scorer who can give you roughly 15 points per game and nearly 10 boards. My pick for 84 overall is DeJounte Murray, and I know the Hawks were looking to do much better than going 41-41 last season. I still think Murray did an excellent job for his first year as a Hawk. Despite playing more minutes, he had less personal fouls and less turnovers than last season, shooting slightly more efficiently and putting up similar points. 85 is Klay Thompson. Look, no one is asking for prime Klay Thompson. We know he's not the same defensive player before his knee and Achilles injury, but he's still giving you 22 points per game on 43% three-point shooting and getting 4 rebounds. The only true critical thing you can say is that he did take a step back defensively, but he's still the second greatest shooter in the game, and thus he's still way underrated at 85 overall. 86 overall has some good competition. There's DeMar DeRozan and Darius Garland to name a few, but factoring in both sides of the court, my pick here is Pascal Siakam, who led the league in minutes played last season, yet still found a way to have less turnovers and less fouls than his previous season, while also putting up his highest scoring season at 24.2 points per game. It was the bite of 87, and the choices here are Domantas Sabonis, Drew Holiday, and Bam Adebayo. My pick is Bam, but any one of these three have great arguments. I think if you glance over a stat sheet, you can pick Sabonis, but Bam is a center who can play perimeter defense at an elite level. Let me say that again. Bam Adebayo is a center who can play perimeter defense at an elite level. You have a lot of great centers like Embiid, who's an excellent rim protector, but Bam is an extremely versatile defender. Plus, it's not like he also just came off of a 20 point per game scoring season. The man can score as well. 88 has a number of good choices from Tyrese Halliburton to Jalen Brunson, but my pick here has to be the champion Jamal Murray. And no, it's not recency bias. Jamal Murray would have gotten this pick ring or not. I think Tyrese has the highest ceiling, and Jalen deserves to be an all-star. He's way underrated too. But Jamal is less of a liability defensively compared to the other candidates here with the equivalent efficiency. You're also getting more spacing and experience. 89 is a hard one. You got Jaylen Brown, Paul George, James Harden, but my pick has to be Trae Young. I think Paul George and James Harden has seen their best days behind them, but I hope I'm wrong. I think Jaylen Brown is the closest second option here, but let me ask you this. If you can only have one player on your team to build around, are you building around Trae Young or Jaylen Brown? Trae has proven that he has the ability to carry teams to deep playoff runs despite the lack of talent. Jaylen probably could do this, but we've never seen him be the undisputed best player on his own team at the NBA level. It's either Tatum is the clear-cut favorite or they're neck and neck. 90 only has two options. It's either Kyrie Irving or Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson has even played 90 games. Well, he's played 114 in the past 4 years, but you get my point. My choice here is the champion Kyrie Irving. No one is ranked 91 in the current update of 2K24, but 92 is a doozy. We got Donovan Mitchell versus Ja Morant. I think Ja Morant has a much higher ceiling, and we haven't seen peak Ja yet, Keep in mind he's only 24, Donovan Mitchell is 27. This is likely Donovan's prime, but it's possible he can improve somewhat a little bit. Ja is the more exciting player to watch, he's better box office, but let's really take a boring fundamental approach to this question. Yes, Ja is the better playmaker and slasher, Mitchell is better with spacing and off-ball movement. He's also the more rounded scorer. Heading into next season, factoring in Ja's suspension, I think as of this recording, the pick is Donovan Mitchell, but I do admit Ja has the higher ceiling, and if he keeps his head in the game, he can become future MVP of the league. 93 is a really difficult one between Anthony Davis versus Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Firstly, how do you even compare a defensive power forward / center to a score-first combo guard? It's a really tough comparison. The only thing I can say to make this debate a little easier is that heading into next season and beyond, Shai's stock is going up, Anthony is either barcoding sideways or about to decline, so for that, my pick will be Shai. 94 is Devin Booker versus Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi easily takes the all-time debate, and if Kawhi isn't going to be restricted by age, health, or load management, then I would give him the edge here even in modern times, but if we're going to be realistic, he is 32 compared to Devin's 26, soon to be 27. I think Kawhi has more questions than answers as of right now, so for that, my pick is Devin Booker. 95, yet another insanely close debate. Jimmy Butler versus Jason Tatum versus Luka Doncic. You can't really go wrong, but you can't really go right by picking one of these three. Jimmy Butler just turned 34 on September 14th, and I don't want to write him out just yet completely, but I do think it's something to consider. Jason Tatum versus Luka Doncic. You can say that Jason is the better defender, but Luka is the better passer and rebounder. Scoring is neck and neck. It really comes down to what you value more because both players have the potential to win MVPs in the near future, if not the next very season. I think Luka is more of a unicorn. How many players can solo run an entire offense at an elite level on their own? It's harder to replace. So for that, I will give Luka the slight edge. And the hardest, 96 overall, you got Steph Curry, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Really, what can go wrong? Or better yet, what can go right? This is tough no matter how you slice it. I think the closest is Steph Curry versus Giannis. This is kind of like Jason Tatum versus Luka again. It's a two-way player with Giannis versus a unicorn talent with Steph. Like, what do you value more? The only major difference between this debate and the previous one is that Steph is 35, soon to be 36, and Giannis is 28. While Steph's game isn't nearly as physically taxing, I do think we are factoring in the outlook into next season and beyond. Giannis will get the slight edge here for that very reason, but it is close and really hard to compare apples to oranges considering that Giannis is a power forward and Steph Curry is a guard. And last but certainly not least, at 98 overall is Nikola Jokić. He's the highest active 2K24 player and deservingly so. No explanation needed for the champ. So here is the best active NBA player from every NBA 2K24 rating. Let me know what you thought of this list, especially that 96 overall debate, and what you want to see in the future. Don't forget to dunk on that like button and subscribe with notifications turned on. I'm Rebound Rewind, and I'll fast forward to you later.